So in a sense, the concerns that you voiced a few months ago when the lockdown was on, the need for greater support, possibly as in some countries of the world which have gone to the, given payroll support, you believe that those concerns are still valid? The impact or the long tail of the lockdown is still something that industry is still having to live with?
Well, I said it then, Rajdeep, and I'll say it again, that I'm not an economist or a finance person by any stretch. But my view at that time and even now remains in two parts. One, either, we have to extend some support or sympathy, particularly, I would say, to the MSMEs. I said it at that time, big companies like Bajaj Auto don't really need that support or sympathy. But my dealers, for example, most of them, or my suppliers, most of them, they are certainly not as robust as we are. And they certainly could do with some solid support, which I have not seen this to be forthcoming so far. Now, maybe something is going to come tomorrow, but, a lot of time is already passed. So that could have been something that could have been done, which in my view, has not happened. On the other hand, if you cannot support the industry, particularly the small ones, then at least you must in some way motivate or induce the customer. My suggestion was that if electric vehicles can attract 5% GST, which is a fantastic move by the government, then for IC engines, why can we not have a GST at, say, 12% for, say, 6 months, and then gradually bring it back to 18%, and then that would be fair, 18% for the IC engine, 5% for EVs. So induce or motivate the customer. Without some such significant action in place, either for industry or for the consumer, I don't understand that when so many jobs have been lost, when so many wages have been cut, and when there is so much uncertainty around, how are people going to come out and buy like stuff is going flying off the shelves?
So what you're saying is you still perhaps need a major second stimulus, that this is, if at all, this is the right time to do it.
Rajdeep, I'm trying to say I have not seen the first stimulus as far as my company, my suppliers and my dealers are concerned. Now, maybe I'm ignorant of what has happened for other sectors, or other businesses, so I cannot comment on that. But if you ask me what has happened for the two-wheeler industry, I am at a loss to say what happened in significant terms. In fact, I want to emphasize that through this lockdown, we have actually been faced with more hurdles. First, the lockdown itself, not only the central lockdown, but the erratic state-level lockdowns. In our case, in July, in Pune, in Aurangabad, where our major plants are, we had huge supply chain disruption. Secondly, the sudden overnight stoppage of imports from China. Again, this doesn't apply just to Bajaj, it applies to the entire industry, particularly to items like tires. I still have tires which are stuck in customs. When tire imports are 1.5% of my tire requirement, I really don't see why I should be struggling with tires that are not produced domestically. The only reason we import them is because they're not made here. So we were hobbled by that. Third was the overnight and retrospective rescinding of the MEIS scheme, which, as you know, rewards exporters, such as ourselves, for example. The impact for Bajaj Auto can be almost 300 crores of rupees in a year. Now, without any warning, you have a government policy in place based on which people invest, based on which we employ people, based on which we produce and sell. And suddenly, without any warning, you withdraw that. And you want us to be global champions and export-oriented and stuff. So, my plea or my submission is that there's not been really too many positives, but at the same time, we've struggled with these negatives.
The reason I'm also asking you this is therefore, because there is a euphoria which is being created. As you said, cartwheels are being done with some of the figures that are being put up, especially in this festive season. You're giving us certain statutory warnings. Also, there's the warning of a potential second wave or a third wave of coronavirus, as we've seen in Europe at the moment. So you're saying the worst is not over. We cannot be complacent. And the fear of job losses and indeed slowing growth is a reality we must live with.
Well, you could put it like that. What I'm saying is, so far since the lockdown has been lifted, not one single month of this year have sales exceeded retail sales, and I'm talking again, I emphasize of the two-wheeler industry, exceeded those of last year, and perhaps this is a reflection of the trouble that people have been through the lockdown in terms of jobs and salaries, because these are the people who buy two-wheelers. These are not people who are buying Marutis and Hyundais. They are buying scooters and motorcycles, particularly at the lower end. And that is why last week FADA as well put out data saying that it's the lower end of the two-wheeler industry that has been hit harder, whereas the 125 to 200cc has done well. And I said the same thing last week, that we've had 28% growth at the higher end, but it's the lower end which has been impacted. So if that is the situation so far, if that is the situation even in Dasera, then something has to be done for things to change in the near future. That is all I'm trying to say.